Here, lizard, lizard, lizard. It's the almighty King Cooper, chameleon at a color-changing lizard, the mixtape messiah. Please stand for the ghetto national anthem. Let's go. Man, forget what them boys is talking about. I'm true, man. It rhymes, swings, it gripping grain. I do, man.
It is the first episode ever of the Great American Cast. I am Tanner Acebo. I'm joined by Gary Lannister. Two longtime fans finally hopping on the podcasting board, and Gary, we couldn't have picked a better time to do it. The Fastlane to Wrestlemania is definitely heating up, and the last couple of days have really been just ridiculous.
Oh, absolutely. We had a lot of great fallout coming out of the main event of Fastlane. A lot of questions that needed answering. Namely, what would we get out of the Brock Lesnar, Dean Ambrose sort of month-long tete-a-tete, and we got a brutal parking lot assault.
Yeah, before Raw, somebody on Facebook broke the story and WWE ran with it. Couldn't tell if those were actual fans in the background. They could have also been performers. Camera never panned over there. But, Dean Ambrose arrives at the parking lot, greeted by a bunch of cheers from fans, and Brock Lesnar, looking as much like a human lion as anybody ever has, just comes out of nowhere and just destroys him.
Yeah, it was pretty gruesome. And then, of course, we've got our buddy Roman Reigns, number one contender to Triple H's title, main event of WrestleMania.
And we all saw it coming. And, we just have to... we just got to suck it up and deal with it, I guess. Or you can react like a lot of people are, and that's just by viciously booing him and almost more viciously cheering on Triple H. And we're going to talk about what happened, of course, on Monday Night Raw this week as well, but just that ending of Triple H being cheered as the hero and Reigns being booed out of the building.
Yeah, at this point, it's like, what are people's actual gripes with Roman Reigns? Because I understand he's probably not the greatest promo. I understand, we don't like someone that we didn't make, like, where it's being forced down our throat. And that's kind of an internet wrestling community institution is, it should be coming from the fans. And then I realize WWE listens more to their casual fans. But listen to the sheer volume of boos. It's not just a couple smarks sitting out there in their Macho Man t-shirts trying to, be snarky for fun. It's like you're losing the casual fan. And it's more and more people are jumping on that bandwagon. Dave Meltzer today quoted as saying, he's just not your guy. And he's a great wrestler. I love his matches. I love his look. I think if they didn't script him so much and they had an organic story for him, that people would be cheering him like Stone Cold, which is what they want. But at the rate they're going, he's going to be the next Lex Luger.
And again, we're going to talk more about what happened on Raw tonight. A couple of really big surprises on Raw this evening. And first, let's talk a little bit about Fastlane. We are going to, of course, go through Fastlane in a lot more depth later on in the show with one of our new segments that we hope you will enjoy. But that's going to come up a little bit later with a special guest that we have today. But so we're going into Fastlane Sunday evening, and really didn't know what the direction of Mania was, other than we were expecting Roman Reigns to once again win at Fastlane, get himself in the main event match. They did a good job in the main event of kind of teasing that it could have been anybody, but at the end of the day, we all knew who it was. And Fastlane had some good moments. They had some good matches. Styles Jericho was great. A couple of great spots. A lot of people saying the match was clunky at times. I really don't think that outweighs some of the cool spots they did.
Or the story they told.
Yeah. You have AJ Styles when he jumps off the top rope to splash Jericho on the outside, and Jericho drop kicks him, and that was timed really
beautifully timed. Yeah, you cannot ask for better than that.
So that's great. I thought that, again, Owens and Ziggler put on a good match, but it's the same Owens-Ziggler match we've seen 800 times to this point. And then, of course, the infamous comedy segments that we hit that really just brought the show to a grinding halt. And we were watching it with some of our friends, and watching it with a group of people. Some of the laugh lines were really funny that the New Day were delivering. But looking back on it, we didn't really... What did we get out of that?
Exactly.
League of Nations, New Day, face-off.
The R-Truth Goldust thing at this point, dude, like, two talented performers that I like watching, and I get that Goldust is supposed to be the weird one, but that R-Truth is so much better as this sort of, like, Inspector Clouseau type character that they've turned him into. Like, oh my god, that spot at the Rumble where he came out with the ladder, I was pissing myself. It was so good. And so I don't understand why they don't have him courting Goldust. And I get that's a personal preference thing. I'm sure there are people that are like, return to form for Goldie, man. Like, congratulations, 1996 was a hell of a year. But, yeah, I don't know. It's just the comedy stuff does not... They're so much better when they take themselves seriously.
Yeah, the comedy stuff, again, in spurts is great. The R-Truth thing at the Royal Rumble was really, brilliant, but... Seeing Goldust spill the bottle all over R-Truth's wife, it really, we don't need to see that stuff on our wrestling programs anymore. How about we put these guys in the ring doing what they're actually good at, and that's wrestling.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, we had the Brie Bella Charlotte match. Kind of got a little messy there at the end with the finish. Watching it live, not really knowing what the hell happened.
I'm still not sure what happened. You want to walk me through that, or
so? What I've heard is that Brie Bella she had that leg injury obviously earlier in the match, so she has the leg injury and she puts the half crab on Charlotte and her leg gave out.
Ooh.
So that was what that was supposed to be. I don't know if it was the camera work because the camera wasn't at a great angle. From where the camera was, it looked like she just kind of lunged forward into the ropes, headlong into the ropes.
Like a half-hearted suicide dive while you're winning the match.
Brie mode into the ropes. And so then Charlotte applies the figure eight, and the leg has already just given out, and there's your finish.
Yeah, that's all she wrote, yep.
So out of Fastlane, again, we go into Monday Night Raw this week with the Lesnar-Ambrose beatdown angle, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to look a little bit more in depth at Raw from this week in just a few, here on the Great American Cast. And we're back on the Great American Cast. Tanner Acebo, Gary Lannister, and now it's time to take a closer look at Monday Night Raw from this week. It emanated from the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, Michigan, and the opening segment of Raw was again recapping the brutal assault of Dean Ambrose by Brock Lesnar in the parking lot. And we see some stuff that we didn't see in the online video. Dean was loaded into an ambulance and a neck brace. They said we'd hopefully get an update soon. We go inside the arena. No Chance in Hell hits, and here comes the Vince McMahon Certificate of Achievement, or whatever it was, award that Vince didn't even know. At one point, he
the Little McMahon Urban Achievers.
Yeah, the Vincent K. McMahon Award is what he said. So he comes out. We get the reveal of who the award winner is, and it's none other than Stephanie McMahon. Place just turns on this segment so quickly, and you can, as the segment goes on, you can see Vince starting to smile a little bit more. He knows what's coming. He knows what's about to happen. And as Stephanie is accepting the award, I mean, she's got the fake crying on. She even says at one point that the crowd is so nice and everyone's it's so great that everyone's behind her. And then she speaks about Triple H for a second, references the fact that he'll be headlining WrestleMania, and oh my god, here comes the money hits. And Shane McMahon makes his return totally unexpectedly to the WWE in a moment that I'm sure no one's going to forget for a while. I mean, this show started with an incredible sequence, and it ended with what turned out to be an incredible sequence, even if it's not the way they planned it to be. But, so Shane comes out. First off, Shane McMahon hasn't been on television in, 5 or 6 years?
2010 was the last time, I think. So yeah, 6.
Yeah, 6. And this guy comes out. You could tell he didn't know what to expect from the crowd. And he comes out, and the crowd just absolutely loses their minds collectively.
Oh, yeah.
Huge ovation. I mean, the guy's crying at one point. And then after the segment was over, obviously he stayed and talked to the crowd for a little bit longer in a cool little snippet. But Shane comes out. says that Steph isn't worthy of the award. Vince says, be nice. We need to talk about this, you and I, backstage. Shane says she doesn't know, does she? And now all of a sudden everyone's like, wait a minute, what is this about? Several years ago, Vince messed up big time, says Shane. Shane saved the day. He and Vince cut themselves a deal. He left to build some businesses and get some time off, but he didn't lose his place in line. And Shane says he let her climb as far as she has in the company. Vince says, let me have a word with Shane. They're trying to get Steph out of there. Steph keeps asking if it's true. He says, there is some truth to it. Shane goes, at the time, it was best for business. Let me hold the ropes for you. Bye-bye.
Cold-blooded.
Steph says she'll never forgive him for this. Crowd sings, na-na-na-na, na-na-na-na, hey, 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 goodbye, loudly. So she's gone. She walks out with her chin up, held up high, despite the fact that she's just been viciously undercut by someone that presumably she hasn't seen in the last 6 years. Right, yeah. Vince says he'll pay Shane whatever, name his price. Shane says it's not about money. He knows how much money he left on the table when he left the business. He said sometimes he used to sit at night and think about it. But what this is about is legacy. Shane's fourth generation. He wants the business to be around for future generations. What is it that Shane wants? He wants control of Monday Night Raw. Vince says things have changed. It's a publicly traded company now. Even though they've been publicly traded for so long.
You didn't hear, son? I like to think that Shane McMahon went to join, like, the League of Shadows in Batman.
Yeah.
Like, that's where he was the whole time, so he has no idea. It's a publicly traded company now. Flash bomb! Here, eat this lilac powder that I made. And everyone forget how bad this show's been.
Yeah, I've been living in a hole for 6 years. Still the same hairline, though.
Yeah.
Shane's rocking. A little bit gray. But guy looks great.
Distinguished, man. Silver Fox.
He looks great. And so Vince polls the crowd and says, do you want this? You want Shane to run Monday Night Raw and essentially the company? He says, give Shane what he wants as long as he has one match, one night, and an opponent of Vince's choosing. Shane mulls it over, says something like, I've made a deal with the devil before. Shane agrees. If Shane loses the match, Vince wants the key to some mysterious lockbox.
Is Hornswoggle going to be in it?
Yeah, Vince McMahon's long lost son. Crowd chants, you still got it, at Shane. He takes the deal, shakes hands with Vince. Vince references beatings and is awkwardly bleeped out, is what I have written here. And then Vince reveals it's going to be at Wrestlemania. It's going to be against The Undertaker. And now Shane's return has a whole different feel to it and a whole different emotion, kind of a, what is this?
Also, the magic stipulation.
Yes, and then, later on Vince says it's Hell in a Cell. So, we get Shane back, huge angle, and this is going to be very interesting. We'll see how many more times we see Shane on TV.
Here's what my feeling on that. You've kind of booked yourself into a corner with this because Raw and the WWE desperately needs a regime change. The Authority storyline is played out. Everybody will tell you that, and it's like, I look at it as like if it were Saved by the Bell, Mr. Belding doesn't just go away. So feasibly, the Authority is something that would continue, but wrestling needs to constantly go back to the well and reinvent itself, or it becomes really stale, and you have the problems they have now. So we desperately need a new Authority figure. We need a regime change. We need a fresh new spin on WWE programming. And we saw the reaction Shane got, the goodwill he has. I think people would take to seeing him run it for a while. I still, your mileage may vary with the McMahons as on-screen Authority figures, but at least it's something different. We haven't had a good guy running the show in a long time.
This is true.
So, on the one hand, we need that, but what that means is Shane McMahon, who, as we said, has not been... I don't know the last time he wrestled. I just remember the last time he was on TV was 2010. So you're going to have him beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania? I just don't see it happen. I mean, I see the ego in a lot of ways on Vince's part. Like, well, why wouldn't a McMahon do it, damn it? But I just... So you have The Undertaker take a loss, and we maintain the status... No, you have The Undertaker take a loss, and we get a little shake-up, and we get Shane and whatever he's going to do. Or you have The Undertaker go over, and how fitting, because it means the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah, Taker wins at Mania again, and the McMahons keep power. And keep in mind, they gave us the Authority losing power very, very recently, and it was a huge angle, and it involved Sting, and you know, John Cena gets eliminated early in that match at Survivor Series, and they really tell the story. Dolph Ziggler is the guy that works from underneath the whole time, and where are all of these pieces now? Now the Authority is still in power. Sting is out injured, although not because of that angle, but Sting is out injured, and Ziggler is nowhere.
Yeah.
Not even on Raw last night.
Yeah, I mean, what's his direction? Yeah. I mean, are they going to keep up the thing with him and Owens, or is the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal bound?
I think it's true. And speaking of Andre the Giant Battle Royal, our first match on Raw last night, Lucha Dragons and Neville versus the New Day. Tough spot to go out in. Crowd obviously still really hot after the Shane thing. Maybe not ready to watch a full match, let alone a 6-man, but the New Day come out and the crowd just goes insane. Your usual 6-man tag, some really cool high spots at the end that leads to Kofi cheating to win, rakes Sin Cara's eyes, hits the Trouble in Paradise for the pinfall. We go backstage, Roman gets interviewed, hasn't got any updates on Dean, and blah, blah, blah. Him and H will be the only two in the ring at Mania, blah, blah, something. Teaser for Lesnar, out after the commercial to talk about his assault on Ambrose.
Can we, really quick, I just want to jump back to New Day and Lucha Dragons.
Yeah.
So, great little match. That sounded really condescending. Because you could not put me in a wrestling ring and have anything happen, but it'd be mass transit incident all over again. So it was a really fun match. I love Neville. He's totally underutilized.
Yes.
Lucha Dragons, great. New Day, great. But this is coming hot on the heels of that. I don't understand. I do and I don't understand the point of that cutting edge peep show that they did. And shout out to our co-host, El Stinko, barking in the background.
Fantastic.
Wearing his Dean Ambrose dog collar.
He is. He's unstable, as you just heard.
So, sorry, I'm trying to stay on point with this, but I just want to know what were they thinking with the cutting edge peep show? Because the way it was set up, it could have been... I know the rumor is that it would have been Port Authority, Enzo Cass, and Carmella getting their call up. Or it could have been something as simple as the repackaged Los Matadores. Or it could have been a face turn for the New Day with the rub from Edge and Christian. I couldn't get a read on what one of those things it was supposed to be, and then by the end of it, I realized exactly what it is. It was a plug for the network.
Yeah,
it was a plug for their show.
Yeah.
On the pay-per-view, where things went off the rails right about after the Brie Charlotte match. And now you've got the League of Nations angle introduced. Nothing came of that when they wrestled New Day and the Lucha Dragons.
Nothing makes sense.
Yeah.
Is the League of Nations now trying to challenge for the tag titles, or is it just the fact New Day was talking trash about him, they came out in traditionally the babyface spot, and they're your bad guys, they get booed. New Day are also technically heels, even though they danced at the end, and Edge made it rain on them with dollar bills. So, I mean, what was that? What was the whole point of that? It was stuff like this is gonna happen on Edge and Christian
Which
show.
I watched, by the way. To borrow a line from Brian Alvarez, -5 stars.
I got through maybe first 5 minutes that opening skit with the Vince McMahon remote, and that was enough.
See, I keep popping for that ad where they saying we didn't start the fire, and Foley's talking about scorching his balls, but that's not enough. Anyway, I'm done with that. I just wanted to double back to that because it's just God damn it.
So you turn around, and the New Day's in this nothing 6-man tag.
Yeah, fuck around.
All it is they cheat to win at the end. During the commercial break after this match, something interesting happened. A Lucha Underground commercial aired. I just made note of that here. It's interesting that, and I've seen that before as well. They've been advertising right on USA during this time slot. Lesnar comes out, and the one thing that I noticed about his entrance is that his pyro did not go off when he did his little arm move, top to bottom.
Classic.
And it looked like it might have irked him a little bit.
Hey, happens to a lot of guys, don't worry.
And this is a Heyman segment. It's your usual Heyman segment. This time his main point was that Brock Lesnar is the main event. The main event doesn't exist without Brock Lesnar. Wherever Brock Lesnar is the main event. And, technically you can't really lie. The guy's a part-timer. We're all conditioned to think this guy's a big deal. So what he's saying is 100% true. So I don't really know what the angle necessarily is. A lot of talking trash about Dean being unstable. There's no shield that will protect Dean Ambrose from Brock Lesnar. This just goes on. So saith the Conqueror, Brock Lesnar. And then we get the classic... I don't know how many times Dean Ambrose has driven an ambulance into a building, but we're getting up there.
How does he not have warrants out for his arrest in every state?
Just taking all of these vehicles. Yep, ambulance shows up backstage. It's driven all the way out to the ramp with garbage cans in front of it. People frantically running around before the ambulance comes through the gate. People back there clearly not knowing how fast he was going to come through there. Dean climbs out of the ambulance, rips off his neck brace, really struggling to get down the ramp. This guy is selling this vicious beatdown that happened to him. Everybody in the locker room could take a long, hard look at what Dean Ambrose did here. Falling into the barricade on both sides, really stumbling. And Lesnar hops off the apron, goes down to ringside. Dean can't even stand up. Lesnar just towers over him. Steps on his head / face as he walks over him.
Brutal.
Up the ramp and out. But did you think the segment was over? I figured once Dean Ambrose came out, he's eating at least one F5. And I was correct. Dean somehow gets a mic, despite lying right by the ring, on the wrong side of the scorer's table, which I'll talk about later, this scorer's area. He says, "Hey Brock, kiss my ass. I'm indestructible. You're going to find out the hard way. I want Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. No holds barred street fight."
Woo!
Big match, big stip. Lesnar stalks back down the ramp, F5 outside the ring. Heyman, my client, accepts your challenge. Great segment.
Cut,
just
print.
Great.
Love it.
You have your Heyman promo and Brock just bouncing around in the ring. And then you have Dean Ambrose just continuing to tell us how insane he is and unstable he is. And continuing to be the hero that we all want to root for. The guy that ultimately never gives up. And we at least get to cheer him on in a big-time match at WrestleMania.
To that point, I'm curious to see where they go with it because, the story that they're building seems to suggest that Dean can't get it done until they're at Mania, but then you also have this issue of, I guess it all depends on the story they tell that they end up going with here, but so far it is, Dean just keeps coming back from war, he'll absorb the beatings, and like he said a long time ago, he'll try to tire Lesnar out that way. I think the street fight definitely ensures that it's going to be a brutal match. That will help Ambrose get some offense in too, which he didn't.
Yes.
You notice he didn't get a lot in on Brock, and
yes.
I realize it's because he's a destroyer. But think of the Brock Taker matches; those are some of my favorite matches because they're both allowed to get some offense in. They're both allowed to look like a threat. So I realize Ambrose is like lean and not quite as gigantic and bear-like, but I'm just really curious. It's one of those things where a lot of people would say, "Oh, well, just to be in a match with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, is an honor and it's a rub and it'll boost your profile, and I agree. But with the story they're telling, it was just like, I would mark the hell out if Dean Ambrose beat Brock Lesnar in a street fight at WrestleMania. Just give me everything they've got.
And the interesting thing, like you said, is Dean's really prime offense against Lesnar and Reigns came at the end of the match at Fastlane. He was using a steel chair.
Yep.
The non-traditional brawler style. People were calling it kind of a Stone Cold Steve Austin-esque.
Yeah,
Just dishing out chair shots all over the place, and then ultimately it led to his demise because he was swinging so wildly. Reigns hits the spear, and that's that. But we're seeing Dean, and it's not like we haven't seen Dean elevated in the past. Guy had great matches with Seth Rollins.
It's been in the title picture a bunch.
For the title, yeah. So it's not like he hasn't been utilized in the main event picture, but maybe underutilized.
I'm starting to think that like now he's getting the respect that he deserves within the company and with the top brass, as it were. I just think he's getting stories that he carries so beautifully. I mean, he really is just he's selling. I know some people aren't crazy about his work in the ring. They think it's a little too WWE formulaic, but I love those matches with Rollins. He had some great matches with Bray Wyatt. Mm-hmm. Whenever he takes on Roman, he's got great chemistry with a lot of people, and I think he and Brock are going to be no exception. And I'm very excited to see where they go with this one.
So we come back from the break, and it's the Usos. And the Usos do their entrance, and the camera pans down to the ring, and it's the Ascension. Dudley's come out, and it's just a meeting of tag teams that are outside the title picture, but all
twirling in the midday sun.
Dudley's come out, welcome the Usos back. Don't take the beating we gave you personally. Dudleys aren't a nostalgia act. They're the most decorated tag team in the history of WWE. Devon talks some trash about Rikishi and his thongs. They say they're never going to use tables again. Ascension jump the Usos from behind and our match begins. But, we're obviously going towards Dudley's, Usos, something. Is it going to be just another multi-team tag team match at Mania for the New Day's belts?
Right, yeah.
Because New Day, are they feuding with League of Nations?
Doesn't look like
they
it.
don't really have a whole lot of direction. And Fastlane could have served as a great piece of direction for them, but it didn't.
Yeah, imagine that. Making them actually have a match on the card.
Usos win the match. Just typical Uso match. They hit their high spots. They get the clean win.
They're great, but they're basically interchangeable little wrestling homunculi now that you can just send out there and say, okay, do your thing. But, who are they? One has a longer beard.
Yes. Dudley's approached the ring. Nothing comes of that. Yes. We get an announcement. 6-man tag rematch from last night. Beef City. Detroit Beef City.
Yeah, Minestrone.
Yeah. So, we have that to look forward to. We head into a break. Jericho comes out. They cut to Jim Harbaugh, the coach of Michigan. The University of Michigan
he was
football
marking
coach.
Out.
Yeah, guy's a huge fan. Guy wants WrestleMania to come to the big house.
Oh,
yeah, he's got on the record and said that. So he is pumped. Of course, it's in Detroit, so he's there, all Michiganed up in all his gear, and he just went crazy for about a good 10 seconds. Jericho cuts a promo about losing to AJ. He'll admit that he lost to him, despite the fact that we all witnessed it and he lived it. But he'll admit it. Has some things he wants to tell AJ face to face. AJ comes out to a nice pop. JBL compares AJ Styles to Dr. J at one point as he's coming down the ramp. Dueling AJ Styles, Y2J chants break out. Very loud. Jericho says he's got one thing left to say. He congratulates him. We got a great little moment of camaraderie, I guess, between these two guys. When a lot of people were looking for the Jericho heel turn, I'm indifferent, really. I think Jericho serves the same purpose, be it as a face or a heel.
Yeah.
And then the Social Outcasts come out after Jericho has sent all this high praise to AJ Styles. So you have what it takes to be a WWE champion. And now they're going to face the Social Outcasts in a tag match. Not before Jericho can get out the line.
I fucking love it. Sorry, go ahead.
Shut up, ginger jackass.
Oh, good burn, bro.
Slater. Yeah. Heath tossed out some shade. Bo Dallas used sarcasm, but it didn't sound like he used sarcasm. Or it didn't sound like he meant to use sarcasm. This is just garbage all over the place.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I thought it was so funny that it's like, you've got what it takes to make it in WWE, AJ Styles. And to prove that, here come a bunch of douchebags. Where Team Creative has nothing for you.
In every sense of it. And, I mean, what could make more sense? Slater and Curtis Axel against Jericho and Styles in a tag match. I just have here, Jericho and Slater start out. Jericho tags in AJ. Match happens. Jericho locks Axel in Walls of Jericho as AJ suicide dives onto the other three morons, and there's your match. Axel taps out to the Walls of Jericho.
Hey, at least no one kicked out of the Styles Clash, am I right?
The more I think about it, the more it frustrates me.
Goddamn.
And I know it's kind of a smarky thing to say, but most protected move in the world of pro wrestling today.
Yeah. Well, come on, you're building the story that he's new and he's different and he's a phenom, like, that you've never seen before. So, yeah, give him an unbeatable move.
And I'll be the first to say I don't watch SmackDown weekly, so I didn't see him hit it on Curtis Axel. So, at that pay-per-view, that was the first time I saw it, watching something live. And it's awesome. And then to instantly just have Jericho kick out of it. They're really setting up the submission to be his finisher.
Calf cuddler?
Yeah.
Calf crusher?
the cuddler.
The cuddler. The snuggler.
So, yeah. They've already ruined Styles Clash, and it's become just the AA at this point. It's become also, I can't remember who said it. Maybe Gino or Sean from Cage Side Seats, but somebody said, it's become the famouser.
Oh, yeah.
Before, he's always going to hit that before he goes for the zigzag. Famouser to the zigzag, yeah. We got a recap of the opening segment of course, Shane McMahon's triumphant return. Trips and Steph are backstage, which leads us to wonder why Trips didn't come out at all in the first segment. He says Shane's always been a loser. He hasn't anything to worry about. The show might not have started the way they wanted it to, but it will surely end the way they want it to. Some more little... I love it when they, like, sometimes they hit you right over the head with it, but it helps when they're telling a story. They just sprinkle these little lines in there.
Yeah, the breadcrumbs are nice.
And so you're like, okay, so something's... End of the show, something big's coming. So, do you want to tell Roman, or should I? Says Trips. Steph says she will. Instantly, as Roman's walking backstage, and Steph comes across him. He says he's on his way to check on Dean. She says he shouldn't worry about Dean, as Roman has a match against Sheamus tonight. The guy, she even says something along the lines of, a guy that's been overlooked since you won the title the first time.
Oh, boy.
How very self-aware.
Don't help me, Steph. That's Sheamus.
And then the League of Nations isn't far behind. She really beats us over the head with the fact that if Roman gets hurt, he will miss his Mania match. A little bit more foreshadowing, but again, this is the hammer to the skull variety. And then we go to the comedy segment. We have R-Truth in the back listening to music, because that's what R-Truth does. Doesn't compete on Raw. He just sits in the back and listens to music. Goldust finds him, presents him with a cake. And when I first saw this cake, there was a thing going around, I think it was around Valentine's Day this year, about some bologna and mustard cake. Did you see it?
Oh, no, but I can conceive of what that would be.
And it looked very similar to what Goldust had in his hands. And I was like, okay, here's the comedy. Goldust's going to give him a cake. R-Truth's going to slice it and take a bite. He's going to say, what is this? Blah, 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 blah. And Goldust is going to say...
This is another edible food.
Yeah, what is this? And Goldust will say, it's bologna mustard. Everyone loves that. I was like, okay, so that's the joke we're getting. I was incorrect, because we get the line, it's a yellow cake with chocolate frosting, just like us.
Oh!
Golden Truth. I love how they have a name, but they're not a team. Truth doesn't want his apologies or his cake. He's about to say he doesn't want to be his partner, but Goldust kind of predicts it. Says, "Don't say you're not going to be my partner." Goldust says he can predict all of our Truth's movements. And he ends up getting a cake smash in his face.
Love it.
Because our Truth said, "Are you seeing me hit you in the face with this cake?" And Goldust says, "I hope not." And our Truth says, "You're right, because I wouldn't do that." And then he walks away. Then he comes back in and smashes him in the face with the cake.
Whackity schmackity do.
We go instantly from the visual of Goldust licking cake off his face to the Wyatt's music. And it's time for a big old bowl of beefarino.
Oh, yeah. Beefaroni.
However, in this match, Bray is in for Braun Strowman. So Strowman watches from the outside, and Bray
with childlike wonder.
We'll be talking to one of the biggest Ryback fans in the world in our next segment.
Whew.
But I know for a fact that he was watching last night, watching for his boy there. Ryback getting a ton of Gilbert and Goldberg chants.
Oh.
I have here, this match is literally nothing. Ryback left at one point while Kane was watching him walk away. Bray Wyatt hits his sister Abigail for the win. So there you go. Ryback bails on Big Show and Kane. Wyatt's get their win back.
Yay for 50-50 booking.
Well, I was thinking about it. It's not technically 50-50 in terms of Ryback. Because he bailed.
True.
He got the win the night before.
That's true.
He bailed out. And he kind of referenced that a little bit later, literally right after the match is over when Rich Brennan catches up to him. But I don't know. He says he's done tag teaming. He won the match last night. Time to stand by himself. That glass ceiling, that brass ring, break it, take it. Because everything means more when it rhymes.
I'm going to get that tattooed on me.
Yes. Hey, the big guy. Next up, Sasha versus Naomi. I have here in parentheses why. They do their usual match. Sasha Banks is the best. There's nothing more we can say. She's fighting Naomi.
Give her every title you have.
Make her get. I want the Ultimo Dragon. All those belts. I want that to be Sasha. Becky shows up, nails Tamina. Sasha hits the knees, and the Bank statement for the win. Literally right after Becky shows up and whacks Tamina. Charlotte comes out and says there's going to be a match between Becky and Sasha for the number one contendership. She's yelling for no reason, and at one point she yells, "Becky, look out!" as if Sasha was attacking her from behind. But looks like we have our direction for the Divas title. WrestleMania, finally.
So do you do kind of, I mean, I don't want to ruin too much NXT for people, but if you're not caught up at this point, do we think they're going to do a kind of, we can't really get a read on the number one contender, or we can't, or are they going to go with Sasha?
I think the story they're telling is they're going to go with Sasha, but from TV airtime, you would think that Becky would be the person that would go against Charlotte, especially because Becky and Charlotte had the they were the BFFs or whatever.
Right.
So I think there's a case for all three of them. I think it's a triple threat. I think it's got to be a triple threat.
Because you've got the dumb shit heel in Charlotte. Mm-hmm. You've got the true babyface in Becky Lynch, and you've got this badass lone wolf tweener Sasha, she can still do all the things that make her great as the boss. Like when she's in the ring, she'll be aggressive with her, like the stomps to Bayley in Brooklyn. Just masterful. So, because if you don't commit to it's so smarky, and I apologize. I promise I'm not going to do all this insidery bullshit all the time, but it's just, it's an appreciation for like how talented she is, that she doesn't have to have a traditionally defined role to make a huge impact. Like, you want to talk about the new Stone Cold Steve Austin, it's Sasha Banks.
Yeah, she has everything. I remember saying something along the lines of she like drips with swag.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like sliding off of her fingertips, like the tips of her hair. It's just ridiculous. When she walks out there, she owns the building. That building is hers, and It's one of those kind of rare things that in NXT it was like she owned the place too. But when she comes out with the big spectacle, the big backdrop, it really is something. And I mean, we gotta hope that she wins. We gotta hope that she takes the belt off Charlotte, right? Then you can go right into Sasha Charlotte. Becky's waiting in the wings. You get your perfect Becky Sasha after we get our Sasha Charlotte.
Run that at SummerSlam.
There you go. Right back in Brooklyn where Sasha Banks had an incredible match again the year prior. We get another recap of the opening segment. Vince then is shown talking to Steph about Shane has no chance against Undertaker and that he now has 2 main events. That's what the award's all about. Is the entrepreneurial thing. And then, speaking of entrepreneurs, the Godfather is announced as the newest inductee into the Hall of Fame, joining Sting. And I gotta say, first off, seeing all the old videos with the Ho Train coming out with him.
Are they going to be inducted along with him, by the way?
I think JBL referenced something like, there might be a lot more inductees coming, Maggle.
Oh no, I have the same brain as JBL. That's not good. I have the same brain as Vince McMahon as JBL.
They show a graphic, and it says, the Godfather will now join Sting in the Hall of Fame class, and it's just the 2 of them. And what a dichotomy of what WWF stood for at one point in time, and what, NWA, WCW, Jim Crockett Promotions, what they... I just found that very, very funny to see Sting alongside the Godfather. Also, of course, had the run as the Good Father.
My personal favorite incarnation.
The APA will induct him, says JBL. The APA are getting back together, and they're going to induct him. References traveling thousands of miles with him, so they must have been travel partners.
Huh.
So that'll be pretty cool. And he said they're going to tell a bunch of old stories. I like JBL in that sense. He's telling old stories.
Yeah.
Conducting interviews.
Have you watched his Legends show on the network?
I haven't seen any. No, I've still got to watch the Bischoff one.
I watched the Bischoff 2-parter, and I gotta say, like, I don't want to get too much on a tangent, but I kind of find myself, as the years go by, being a lot more into Eric Bischoff. Like, I know that...
Yes, me too.
...what he was in WCW, but it's strange to see him so candid, and it doesn't seem like showmanship, and like he's trying to convince you of anything. It just seems very real.
And the guy was an outsider in a time when outsiders didn't really gain power.
Yeah.
And then you look at what he did. I mean, obviously... the crash and burn. But, hey, ran one of the most successful television programs in history. Not just a wrestling program. Television program.
That's a great distinction to draw.
Those numbers they put up were just insane. We come back. Roman's music hits. And I would say the response was mixed at absolute best. And that would be the loudest the crowd would cheer for him for the rest of the night. At that point. And it was kind of meh. Lots of booing going on. Sheamus comes out, has Roman's arm, got him in an arm bar, and Rusev is just maniacally screaming, break his arm, Sheamus! Break his arm! Break his arm! Like at the top of his lungs.
Oh my god, he's the best friend.
And like shaking his fist on the apron as if to signify the arm that he wants to see
break
broken.
This.
Yeah. We've got let's go Roman sucks going on. Roman sends Sheamus to the floor. Reigns runs around the corner, flying clothesline off the steps, which always gotta love that spot. Big dude flinging himself off a high thing.
Oh yeah.
Especially when Sheamus is taking it, because that's another big guy. I mean, these are two guys. A lot of people say that if they main evented WrestleMania, it wouldn't have drawn. If they told a story, I think, because they're both good workers.
They have great chemistry. And
Sheamus isn't a guy that you would cheer against Reigns.
Oh, no, no way.
Trips is, but I just don't see Sheamus as a guy that the crowd would revolt against. Sheamus tosses him in the ring, distracts the ref. Oh, sorry, Sheamus tosses him out of the ring once they get back in, distracts the ref, allows Rusev to super kick Reigns on the floor. We go to commercial. This next thing that happened is the epitome of the things that I hate about this company. We come back from the break, and we're informed that during the break, the referee tossed the League of Nations from ringside. We don't get a reason, and it didn't happen on our screens. We're just told it. We cut back to Steph saying, if you get injured by getting jumped by the League of Nations, you'll miss the main event. And now they've just been tossed away during the commercial break.
So they had to do something relatively extreme to get tossed.
I just don't understand. And this isn't in the time when they were doing that second screen app. They don't do that anymore.
Right, yeah.
So you didn't even have the chance to look at it on the app. They aren't even driving people to the app, which I could see. It still sucks. But I could see them doing it because they just shamelessly plug everything, trying to kind of gain control of our minds.
Yeah.
Sheamus controlling in the ring, misses a brogue kick, eats a Superman punch as Reigns comes off the ropes. Crowd boos. They're outside the ring. Big spear by Reigns. Here comes another one. I can just see the anger. Ref gets to 8 before Reigns rolls in. The referee's about to count Sheamus out. Triple H's music hits, and this match means nothing now.
Yeah, great.
There's no bell ring. There's no count out. There's no announcement. There's no reference to what happened. This is an old-fashioned WCW Monday Night Nitro no contest. Not even a DQ. A straight-up no contest. I have here no contest in the hopes that they'd resolve that. Nope.
You knew better.
Reigns and H brawl outside. Crowd is hot for Triple H. He's out in his jeans and the shirt and the taped fists. It's a great look. The guy's iconic. I mean, we can't sit here and say that he's anything but that.
Yeah.
Trips clotheslines Roman after getting thrown in the barricade. Throws Roman in the ring. Triple H climbs up on the apron. Eats a Superman punch to a ton of boos. Reigns chokeslams him over the barricade. It must have been a clothesline. I don't know why I put chokeslam there. Over the barricade into the scorer's area. Side note. What do these scorers do? You have the person that rings the bell, right? You have your ring announcer, who's not even really sitting in that area, kind of in between that area and the announce desk. There aren't time limits anymore, so you don't have a timer out. So what's the point of the area?
I don't know. Because every time they go over there, I see poor Lillian Garcia, who looks like she's being held at knife point into her seat. So and a wrestler comes near her, and she thinks it's like a escaped white rhino charging right at her. She's one of the best workers in the company.
Yeah, man. She sells. These guys are legit monsters. So yeah, again, don't hang out in the scorer's area. Triple H nails Roman Reigns in the throat with the ring bell. Crowd is chanting for Triple H as he just rams Roman head onto the announce table. I have 25 times written down here. That was an estimate. But as he's doing it, rhythmically, the crowd is chanting yes. Just... I can only imagine Vince's face in the back. It's one of two things. It's disgust, or he's indignant, and he's like, they'll learn. They'll be cheering for him, don't worry. Reigns is busted open. We're going to talk about that, obviously, in a little bit, but this blood, this gushing blood. The slew of refs come in. That's what happens. They send in the refs. These poor, hapless men, and they're all wearing their little blood gloves. They're not effective, as always.
WWE doesn't hire competent employees, as we've seen.
I have here, Roman's nose might be legit broken as the doctors check on him. So I was clearly buying this at the time. Triple H is setting up the stairs. He takes the top level off, chucks him. So we know what's coming next. The old pedigree. Crowd chants yes. And he straight up nails the pedigree. Hammer fists on Reigns. That might have come before the pedigree, and Triple H's white knuckles are now just covered in Roman's blood.
Oh, yeah.
He mocks him with the Superman punch fist cock. Tosses him the suck it sign. However, it looks like they rushed to the finish, and Roman is legit holding his face together. So they got me good here.
Yeah, I remember getting the text from you being like, holy crap.
Yeah, so show ends with H standing on the stairs, hoisting the belt, and being cheered like the conquering hero. And that's Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
That is Monday Night Raw this week.
Feels like 1999 all over again.
Yeah, I mean, big bloody angle to finish the show. So before we head off here, obviously something that's come out today, a fan that was sitting behind the announce desk saw Byron Saxton very clearly hand something to Roman Reigns just before the announce table beatdown.
Yeah, I think it was a starburst, but it could have been could have also been a blood capsule.
There's a lot of cherry starbursts.
Yeah, exactly. I chewed them for you.
More like gushers. They were cherry gushers. I could buy that. But a lot of blood, real or fake.
Yeah.
They sent out. Roman tweeted out a picture today. I guess it's not legit. The broken nose is not legit. They said he went in for surgery today. So they're really pushing this injury angle, which again, Steph said, if you're hurt, you're gonna miss out on your Mania match. So maybe this is them obviously trying to build sympathy for Roman.
And to your point about we don't know if it was a legitimate broken nose. We have people saying it's not. We have people saying it gets slipped a blood capsule. It's like, obviously we're doing a wrestling podcast and we haven't been afraid to drop a couple insidery kind of things, but like you said, you were buying that hook, line, and sinker.
Yes.
So not to get all Jim Cornette, and we love Jim Cornette, but we also understand that it's saying like, oh, you're killing the business. Like, the business changed.
Yes.
And the way it changed is we do see what's behind the curtain now. So we were kind of robbed of an opportunity, and I'm not like blaming anyone. I'm just saying it's the nature of the beast now with the internet and that information being out there. That if that hadn't happened, if we didn't have this kind of reporting and we didn't have people with their cell phones out, you would have walked away from that being like, oh, I mean, you might have had more sympathy for Roman Reigns coming out of that if you legitimately thought that he took that savage beating. So it's an interesting thing to think about.
And so again, Reigns had the surgery today in kayfabe, and we'll see what comes out of that. We're going to go ahead and step away for just a quick moment here, and when we come back, we'll be joined by a very special guest, the biggest Ryback fan in the East Coast, Mr. Stephen Leclerc. Again, we're going to take a quick break.
Just another fallen angel, trying to get through the night, step by step, one by one, higher and higher step.
And we're back on the Great American Cast. Tanner Acebo, Gary Lannister, and we are premiering a new segment this week. As it is our first week, everything's a premiere. But this is going to be a segment we'll refer to as the Casual Mark, and we are joined by really our resident Ryback fan, and a man who comes from such a great background in the French Canadian area. We have Mr. Steve Leclerc with us. Steve, welcome to the Great American Cast.
Thanks for having me.
So I guess we'll start. You didn't watch wrestling growing up, did you? A whole lot.
No, before I started watching wrestling, what was it now, about six months ago, roughly? The most I knew about wrestling was when I browsed Reddit and I would see reaction GIFs that would pop up of, say, Vince McMahon having some crazy reaction, like he was wriggling his ear, like he just couldn't, like...
The ear tug. Yep.
And it was like, did I just hear that? But obviously it was used in a different context to make things funny. But so apart from that, I pretty much had no idea what wrestling was about. The most I knew was that there was WCW before WWE, and that obviously WCW was no longer around. And
sadly.
Yes.
R.I.P.
Gone but not forgotten. Not as long as we have Hogan Flair first blood cage match.
God, love that match so much. Anyway.
And then I figured WWE came into existence from the ashes of WCW. So that was my knowledge. And I remember the first night sitting down on Monday night. And I was like, well, Wonder what we're going to do this evening at 8 o'clock. I see Mr. Tanner Acebo switching over to the old USA Network. And he said, we're going to watch some Raw, Steven. What's Raw?
Oh, and you were hooked.
I wish I could remember the first, that first episode of what was happening and how and what the storyline was at that time. But I do remember that. Well,
Seth was still the champion.
Yes. Seth
point.
Rollins. He was the top. He was the top cheddar
Yes, indeed.
in the world,
The cheesiest.
in the WWE universe.
Yeah.
And nobody liked him, if I recall. Or I don't know if anybody still likes him.
I mean, as a wrestler or Seth Rollins the character? Because he is a heel, but the guy is a god. He's a golden god.
He's designed for you to hate.
Exactly. So he's got the reaction out of you. My girlfriend also hates Seth Rollins. She says he's so slimy, and I'm like, yes,
It's that cackle.
he's doing what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
That
It's incredible.
But just to tidy things up, yeah, so watched Raw and started getting into it. I started actually following, I guess what you can say, the storylines. What really helped, obviously, was watching it with, how do you say, an experienced WWE watchers. And, yeah, being able to pick up on, like, oh, that's his finishing move. You know, that's the... I can't think of one off the top of my head right now.
What about your boy?
What does he do as a finisher? I know he does the fist pump, and he gets the crowd riled up, but I remember reading something that said, like, the crowd loves him for the feed me more part, and that's it.
He's got the meat hook,
That's right.
and then it goes into the shell shock.
Like, oh, I just remembered one. The Styles Clash.
Ah,
Yes. And you've already seen it get kicked out of.
Yes.
god damn it.
Yeah, that was ridiculous,
Yeah.
honestly, actually.
Yeah. So, we go right into, you mentioned the Styles Clash. You watched Fastlane this weekend, the most recent WWE pay-per-view offering.
Which I gathered, not too many people enjoyed that outing.
Yeah, I mean, certain people didn't,
It was a Jekyll and Hyde pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Like, it started
Things
really
were great.
strong, and it turned a
things
corner.
things were not so great. First off, how did you feel about your boy picking up a clean pin,
On
even though it wasn't a tag
pay-per-view, no
match?
less.
I'm not sure how I got this strong connection with Ryback, but I think I like playing the role of devil's advocate a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I heard you say, God, I hate Ryback, I said, I think I might like Ryback. First off, the man is sculpted.
Thank you for saying
Yes.
it, so we didn't have to.
He is just a well-sculpted individual.
You like
And-
Del Rio, too, for that.
See, I do like Del Rio, but not as much as I do Ryback.
Mm-hmm.
How do I say this? I just like Ryback because he's just a guy that everybody kind of just says, yeah, he's cool. He's got the feed me more chant. He does the fist pump thing. He's just like a meathead, just, ground and pound guy. And that's all everybody likes. And that's it. And it's like nobody actually expects him to win matches. Or at least the WWE story folks don't want him to win matches. Like, would you ever see Ryback potentially like getting into that level of competing for the big belt, the big one?
He did.
Has, historically.
Yeah, and years ago when when CM Punk held the belt, when Ryback had just come in, he was over as hell. Challenged for the belt. The Shield happened during that whole feud. You got the debut of Reigns, Ambrose, and Rollins. So he challenged, but he never ultimately won it. He's since slipped down the card a bit. And now, when you started watching with me, did he have the Intercontinental belt? Has he won the IC belt since you've been watching?
He may have had it one time, if I recall correctly. Other than that, though, he's pretty much been a part-time wrestler, in my view.
You don't see him enough.
You don't see him often. I remember one Raw that I was watching, he didn't show up once.
That's true.
Yeah.
You know, I would like to make an appeal to our listeners, too. I think we should take up a collection to get Steven front row tickets, like ringside tickets to SmackDown, so that Ryback will hand him the pendant when he makes the entrance. I think that'd be a very special thing we could make happen.
They have the Ryback alarm clock. I almost bought it for you. But I can't find out if it legitimately says "Feed me more" as the alarm.
It should say "Wake up, it's feeding time."
Oh, it might say that. Yeah, it should, if it says that, but if it does, it's coming
good.
your way.
That would be good.
You'll be getting that. So
just the entire song. Just his entire opening sequence.
Just get him a ringtone and set it on his phone.
That would be good. I might actually look into
that. What did you think? You're a more casual fan. You haven't really, I don't want to say this like demeaningly, but you don't know like the ins and the outs or like the nonsense, like why people are booing Roman Reigns. We had internet issues at our house during the main event, but what did you think of kind of the lukewarm reception that Roman Reigns received after punching his ticket to WrestleMania?
/ what do you think of Roman Reigns?
Yeah,
what's your appraisal of Roman Reigns?
Well, I know the WWE. How do you say, the story folks, the story people?
Creative?
The creators.
Department, yeah.
I know they're trying to make him out as being the bad guy because in previous Raws that I've watched, he's punched Vince McMahon in the face. He's done these things that are trying to but they're trying to show their viewers that he's just kind of like not a bad person, I guess.
Like a badass or like a bad, because Vince McMahon.
Yes, actually.
Like a badass.
Kind of like doesn't take orders from anyone.
Yeah.
Kind of doesn't like a mercenary kind of.
That's the character. That's.
Yeah, and to your point about like a bad person, did you really mean like he's a mercenary badass, or do you sometimes get a feeling that creative is specifically scripting him to look like an asshole?
I think so. Their name is Creative?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say maybe Creative, is scripting him to appeal to a certain set of viewers that they think would popularize those viewer, how do you say, those kinds of viewers. I guess if I were to think philosophically about this, maybe they're trying to have each character emphasize each different kind of group. So like, you got your New Day for those folks that like the funnier side of things, and then you got the Bamf guys that like Roman Reigns, and then you've got who's like John Cena.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about this is WWE often says, we market to the casual viewer. We don't really care about the internet wrestling community. We're all about the fans who buy tickets and come to the arena because it's a fun thing to do with their kids, and we want to be the Walt Disney of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So ostensibly that's who Reigns is being marketed towards, but here we have a relatively new viewer and a casual fan who does not have a connection to Roman Reigns and has an assessment that we happen to know. I'm not saying like, well, your assessment of Reigns is wrong, but it's damning because it's showing that what Vince McMahon's trying to do with him isn't getting across.
It's not getting over.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not getting over. Candidly, who'd you want to win the triple threat match at Fastlane? Was there somebody that you like wanted to win, like personally?
Remind me who those were.
It was Dean Ambrose, it was Brock Lesnar, and it was Roman Reigns.
I didn't really have a preference for any of them, honestly. I don't like Dean because he's kind of like I don't know. He seems like in the world of not that I'm trying to compare it to MMA or anything like that, but he's kind of like out of his class. It
Really?
seems like, because he's such like a not, I don't want to call him skinny, but he's not. Dean Ambrose and Brock Lesnar, like, you would think just based on muscular size that Brock Lesnar would win every single time, because they're out of they're like different classes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why.
And it's hard to fathom for me, it's like, okay, like, why would they script those two together when it must, as a physical dimension, Brock Lesnar should win every time.
So then you've got the book, you're creative. What do you do if you want to prove that Dean can beat Brock Lesnar? You want to at least prove that they're evenly matched. How do you go about it?
Well, in a Hollywood fashion, basically, Dean Ambrose would try to find a way to win against Brock Lesnar without using his bare hands, while being able to somehow cheat the system or find a loophole in the system. Say, I don't know, like try to find like a partner or something that might be able to help him out, or use some sort of objects, and maybe it's like a TLC match or something like that. I don't see how there could be like a Wrestlemania, like what do you say, like a final match or whatever. TLC.
It's not going to be TLC. It's going to be a no holds barred street fight.
Yes, yeah.
So you have the cards are on the table, as it were.
Yeah.
If Dean's going to win a match against Lesnar, it would be this type of match.
Exactly.
It would be this kind of...
It would be something where he can go underneath the ring and grab whatever he needs to.
Mm-hmm.
Because going bare fisticuffs against a guy like Brock Lesnar, like, technically, he shouldn't be able to win.
And it goes back to what people used to say about Brock Lesnar, Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan was only going to lose the belt to Lesnar at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
And then he got hurt before that even happened. And how disheartening that would have been to just see him lose. But in theory, in a wrestling match, Brock Lesnar would have just, destroyed him.
Systematically dismantled him. I would just like to point out, for the sake of this ongoing experiment, that once again, a casual fan keyed in on booking that's really making the Dean Ambrose Brock Lesnar storyline work.
Yes.
And also what's making the Reigns... So, I mean, there it is in audio, black and white, whatever the equivalent of that is in sound waves, I guess. Black and white sound waves. They have a color, Steven. You're sciencey.
I can't think of anything right
Yeah,
now.
exactly. But yeah, so, I mean, it's as plain as day, and I don't mean to harp on it, but it's just really interesting to have our own sample size here to say, okay, they're clearly not reaching their objectives with getting Roman over, but Dean is they're doing all the right things with him.
Yeah, exactly.
And your mileage may vary with Dean Ambrose. I know a lot of people don't like him, but I think they're telling a hell of a story.
A lot of people do.
Exactly.
A lot of people do.
Yeah, I am one of those people.
Yeah, me as well. So I have a question that I wanted to ask you here. Who do you really dislike that's on the roster? When we're watching Raw and you see this person come on your screen, you're just like, I hate this. Similarly to like how when like Ryback comes out, I'm like, oh, here we go. Who holds your contempt on the roster? Is there anybody that like you really?
I don't really like the Wyatts.
All right.
They don't look like they're in shape. I also don't like, along with the Wyatts, I don't like Kevin Owens.
Oh.
For physique reasons again?
Sorry?
For physique reasons again?
Yeah.
Because he's big? Because the guy is
I'm sure
incredible talent.
I'm sure
He's
he's
a great hand.
strong. He just doesn't look like he fits into, in my opinion, into the wrestling image, I guess.
And now this is an interesting thing as well, is Vince McMahon, his whole career has been a guy that likes the physique. Guy's got to be big and brawny and stuff like that. Whereas in this day and age, like a Daniel Bryan, who was not brawny, he wasn't weak by any sense, but like
Right, yeah.
he didn't have popping muscles.
Yeah.
That guy got over. He was a great wrestler. But I mean, you look at the Wyatts and I mean, Eric Rowan just does nothing for me.
Can we talk about his jumpsuit really quick and how it's just a little too small for him and it gives him a constant backdoor moose knuckle? Like he's got a little cheek wedge going the whole time and you're watching him put people in the rest holds and you're like, I can see the outline of your ass, man. This is distracting.
I think Harper is a great talent. So
he's incredible.
I think he can be like a bigger guy. I mean, Owens has gained weight since he went to the main roster. His time in NXT, he was still a bigger guy, but he wasn't to the extreme that he is now. It goes back to something Jim Cornette said a while ago, his problem with Kevin Owens, and I'm not going to take a side in that argument. Obviously, it has nothing to do with us, but it is out there that he wasn't really interested in trying to shed weight or anything like that. I find it interesting that Vince hasn't had him in the gym or something like that. I feel like Vince would be the guy to say, hey, you need to lose X amount of weight. Especially because, as Steven said here, the casual fan, guy doesn't look like he can compete. Guy's huge.
Mm-hmm. And getting away from the physicality thing, another reason why I don't like the Wyatts is their, how do you say, it's their, what they do. The whole thing about how they can steal souls and their little portrayal, like their what's the thing that they do? It's like, when they that one time they took down the other Undertaker, and then they performed a ceremony.
Yeah, they carried him out.
They stole his soul.
Yes, and Kane's
something
as
like
well.
that.
They
To
took
me,
his powers.
I was rolling my eyes in disgust, and I was like, "What? Why are they doing this? This is not about. This isn't about wrestling. This isn't about." I'm not seeing people fight. I'm not seeing to me, that wasn't entertainment. That might have been growing the storyline in a certain, way.
Well, and now here we are, and the storyline's been totally abandoned. Everything about that storyline means nothing.
Yeah.
So why did they do it in the first place?
Because I don't think they have the long-term vision. They think that their fan base, people that watch, don't pay attention. Don't take notice of things that, hey,
wins and losses don't matter.
They stole Kane's soul months ago, and now Kane's pyro is scaring them away.
Yeah,
what happened on Raw a little while ago. Like, you have that power.
Braun Strowman's the dog with the vacuum.
Yeah, or so we're told. So this, the supernatural thing, if you can really suspend the disbelief and you just see these people as characters, it works, but then they lose. So they're like these supernatural beings with the power to take souls, and they lose on a consistent basis, as they lost to Team Ryback.
Yes.
Team Ryback, Big Show.
But here's the thing. What is simplistic view of cults, too? Like, if this were the 80s and they wanted to do, like, what they did with The Undertaker, that's one thing. But, we're in this era where we're trying to keep everything relatively realistic. I mean, there are real fucking cults out there. They don't all necessarily sacrifice people, and why don't you go a little more, True Detective swamp cult, and a little less, I don't know, Rasputin on
the
Nickelodeon,
beards.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna have beards.
Like, I love their look. I think it's cool, but I just think that it's silly to be like, now I can shoot lightning, and my rocking chair is a relic from a ghost lady. Like, so I'm with Steven on that. As someone who likes the Wyatts, they don't have go away heat with me, but
love Bray Wyatt, love Harper.
Yes, like the idea.
One of them just
together.
went down, had a torn bicep.
That was Rowan. He was out for a
Rowan. He
while.
came back, and they've used him terribly. Which is what.
So
they
maybe
always
if
do.
he and Braun Strowman could be like valets or heaters, but they're not great. I mean, Rowan's okay, but Strowman's awful.
Which is the one that does the most talking? He's a little shorter dude.
The Bray. Yeah, he's got the
he is a great actor. I don't like what they do, but when he does it very well.
Yeah, he's a fantastic promo. I think he's great in the ring as well, and they kind of, I wouldn't say undercut him, but with the Wyatt family, he talks, they fight more often than not.
Right.
And so when you see him in the ring, it's very limited. We even go back to Payback, an event that I was there at in Baltimore last year. He fought Ryback. Ryback went over. So
What was his last? What was the Wyatt's last pay-per-view win?
I know that Bray beat Dean at TLC, last year.
Was it the blow-off to their feud?
Actually, Bray might have beat Ryback at Payback. So that would have been. I got my ends crossed.
Oh, I think you're right.
I
I think he did beat him. I think so.
Yeah. The more I think
so it was
about
part
it,
of the rebuilding, the
Yeah.
post-Taker rebuilding.
but then they did nothing with it.
Yeah.
So my apologies there, folks. Bray did go over there. Real quick before we let you go here, Steven, we got one more question for you, and it comes from Gary. So, what when you watch wrestling, when you watch Raw, when you watch pay-per-views, what do you like? What are the things that you see that you enjoy? Is it like finishes of matches? Is it cool moves? What aspects of pro wrestling do you like, I guess? If there are any specific.
Right.
Yeah.
What I enjoy the most, to be blunt at first and then kind of derive into it, are the moves. I love, seeing, what's his name? Neville. Neville's a very acrobatic individual. He does crazy moves. Same thing with Kalisto when he's fighting against Del Rio and he does the corkscrew move. What's it called? I know there's a name
When
for
he
it.
jumps into the ropes.
He
and
jumps
spins
onto the
out.
rope and then spins out.
Yeah, and he gets him with the
It's
arm.
fantastic
Yeah.
looking. It's great. I love it every time.
Cesaro.
Oh
same.
my God.
The jumping
Cesaro,
corkscrew
the
uppercut.
greatest.
Yes.
And that's something that I mark out for every single time. It does not matter. But it could go ahead.
That night or the last Raw, I was texting you. What
Yeah.
match was it?
Yeah, it was the end of that 6-man tag, and it was Neville and the Lucha Dragons against the New Day.
It's fantastic.
And, Neville hit that 450 splash off the apron onto Big E, I think it was on the floor. And then Kalisto popped up off Neville's back and landed on Xavier.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was. It was exciting. There was a lot of excitement to that.
Granted, I didn't want the New Day to win because I just liked the performance. All that work they did, and they did it for nothing.
Just to have Kofi break the ice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's what really got me. Yeah, that's what entertains me in wrestling is the moves. It's not necessarily the storyline because I'm not involved with it.
Mm-hmm.
I just like seeing the action. I just like seeing not necessarily the drama, but the actual action.
The action that comes out of it.
Yeah.
All right. He is Steve Leclerc. Before we let him go, do you have any plugs? Twitter? Instagram? You got any plugs?
I
You want to toss out there?
The Kerbal Space Program?
Yeah, Kerbal Space Program.
Yeah, I'm on it. I'm on Instagram, not often, but I am. You can find me on Facebook somewhere, and I'm my tag. I was gonna say my tag name on Reddit, but a lot of people like to keep that anonymous, so I'm gonna keep it that way. Unfortunately,
He's going to keep the Reddit anonymous. He's Steve Leclerc. This has been the Casual Mark. He's Gary. I'm Tanner. We wrap up the show next here on the Great American Cast.
Feed me more. Feed me more. Feed me more.
And we are back on the Great American Cast. Tanner Acebo and Gary Lannister, and we're going to try to end every show with a little bit of, I guess maybe not so bold predictions, some just predictions that we would like to see and maybe that we think we'll see from WWE and maybe from NXT, from anything out there. And so Gary, I guess we'll start with you. What do you got this week for some predictions out there?
Yeah. So during one of the breaks, you brought up a really great point. I'll say it again. I hate to skew so insidery, but there have been reports that WWE is considering another brand split. And you brought up an excellent point. What if Shane is able to wrest control of WWE from his father, and he takes over Raw, and then you have your boy Triple H bring NXT into the fold and use them to try to engage in this kind of corporate power struggle with his brother-in-law. I really like that idea that you came up with. And I think it's a great way to introduce your Samoa Joe and your Sami Zayn. I would really like to see those two hit the roster right after WrestleMania. It would be the perfect time, especially if Shane wins his match, Triple H loses his. Yeah, and you could kind of bring in these hired guns in the NXT brand. They're loyal to Triple H, and you can do what they love to do in the reality era and obliterate kayfabe and talk about when Triple H signed me and backstage and all this stuff. But yeah, I think you're in an interesting spot if you bring up a heel Samoa Joe and a babyface Sami Zayn. Obviously, we'd all like to see Sami Zayn chasing after Kevin Owens. I think that would be great if they could fight over the Intercontinental Belt coming out of WrestleMania. Keep that on Kevin Owens and sort of see where those two can take it. Talk about putting luster back on that title. It feels like every time, like Dean Ambrose made it feel like something, and we got to that wonderful. I really enjoyed the Fatal 5-Way on Raw, and it like Kevin Owens is a commendable champion, but it really just, I don't know. Sometimes when they put him in a feud with Ziggler that we know, like, you're not going to put it back on Ziggler.
No.
So I mean, you've blown the outcome. It doesn't feel like there are stakes to anything anymore. So I mean, having Kevin Owens hold on to it for dear life and bringing up Sami Zayn to cause hell, I think that could be a lot of fun. I don't necessarily know what you do with Samoa Joe and who you send him after first. You have any thoughts on that?
Well, I was just thinking as you were talking more about that, the brand split, the NXT and the WWE brand split. Think about this. Think about the guys that have gone through NXT already that are on the main roster. So you could, in theory, have Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn fighting side by side.
Oh yeah.
Seth Rollins comes back. He rejoins Triple H. He's an NXT guy through and through. I mean, obviously you can't have Dean. You can't have Roman going over there. That would go against their character.
Right.
If Dean were to do the flip, if Dean were to turn heel, I don't see him aligning with the Authority in that kind of heel setting. I see him just kind of being an unstable badass that will screw you.
Right, exactly.
That will do whatever it takes to win more than he does now. But I don't know. Samoa Joe, he's got to come up and he's got to fight somebody. It's got to feel important.
Yeah.
I think a Joe Styles would be incredible, and that would please everybody. You have the people that weren't familiar with them being like, oh, who are these guys, and being treated to some probably 5-star matches. And then you have the people who've watched them everywhere they've competed, and now they're getting it on the grandest stage of them all. Imagine that at SummerSlam. How big would that be? And again, not to keep bringing up NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, but last year, Samoa Joe, great match with Baron Corbin in Brooklyn, and the crowd loved him there. So I feel like it's a win-win. You get Samoa Joe up there. You have all these kind of, I don't want to call them indie talents because they're more than that. But it's what they're kind of known for. And he slides right in with them. But they have to feel important. And it'll be interesting what they do with Shinsuke Nakamura.
Oh, yeah.
Because he has to feel important, if and when he does make it up to the main roster. But don't want to get too far ahead.
Right. Yeah.
On these predictions, but folks, we thank you all for tuning in to the inaugural Great American Cast, and we'll be back with you next week. Gary, before we go, any last things? Any crazy things you're seeing happening on Raw this week?
Yeah, I think they're going to start calling Sister Abigail's Kiss again, and not try to phase that out. Because the move is a fucking kiss. You kiss him on the forehead. You're not going to bring that up? That's a stupid, Jerry Seinfeld, what's the deal with Sister Abigail's Kiss? But it bugs the shit out of me, Michael Cole. I stand with Kevin Owens. You are a bastard, man, and I will not have it. Yeah,
Kevin Owens and Michael Cole, maybe the best feud going on.
I love it.
WWE right now.
I know we're supposed to hate the shit out of Kevin Owens, but I follow him into the jaws of Cerberus himself.
I have a bold prediction for Raw. Taker comes out, we get physicality with Taker and Shane.
Oh.
I think they're going to try to keep that hot. Why not? They're going to get physicality.
Yeah, let's see what Shane's been up to the last 6 years.
Again, he is Gary Lannister. I'm Tanner Acebo. Our special thanks to the biggest Ryback fan in the universe, Mr. Stephen Leclerc, for joining us on this, our first broadcast ever. We will see you next week, folks.